With the gold fleet collar, dipping in my blue Impala. Top dollar with the gold fleet collar, dipping in my blue Impala. Top dollar with the gold fleet collar, dipping in my blue Impala. Top dollar with the gold fleet collar, dipping in my blue Impala.
So, didn't like the movie. I know they didn't have that part in the movie, but that's what I always thought. Pac would have been live if he didn't cross Snoop. Because you gotta say, Snoop was the biggest rapper in the world when Pac was in jail. The biggest rapper motherfuckers was standing outside. They don't do that no more. Standing outside records waiting, white folks. Everybody we wanted the Snoop Dogg. They wanted Snoop Dogg's album. They was waiting, camping. And then for him to humble himself and be like, hey man, bring Pac over here. That'd be a great piece for us. Bring him over here. That'd be, he humbled himself. So, Pac is kind of going from his own demise. It's like, yeah, I know somebody. Yeah, but when you start, and it can be a lesson to a lot of these brothers. If you ain't grow up on that set, don't claim the set.
The hoochies are having a royal ball. If you could rap or so dress fresh, you might win a date with the ghetto princess.
Well, I ran home when I heard the whole speech. Bust through the door straight to my old wanted. We gon' get some played, my thought of phrase. There appeared the G in a puff of haze. He said,
what's up, dawg? My name is Suge. I'm your gangster godfather. It's all to the good. Now, I came here with the main purpose of granting you your largest wish.
I said, Suge, what's poppin', dawg? Just put me down the road. And I know that I can handle these for sure. He waved the Cuban cigar.
Man, you ain't Snoop Dogg.
My sack up was an
Top dog, baby.
My clothes transformed from rags to silk suits, and transformed my hoop into a 600 coupe.
Now, have you since then, within this whole thing was going down, and I'm pretty sure it's all over now, have you seen Snoop or talked to him since then?
No, check it out. But I just tried to, he had his birthday a couple of years ago. He had a birthday. I tried to reach out and, say happy birthday, with 25, 27 million people on Twitter or whatever, I guess, you probably don't see it. But it's, it's kind of funny how you would not see me, reaching out as a grown man to try to squash beef or whatever differences we had or why the shit even became what it became, I reached out and tried to, hey, happy birthday, champ, and enjoy your day. And, I didn't get a response. So, I haven't talked to that cat. But, I see me posting shit on Instagram and shit and about death row shit. Now I just see people I see the guy doing posting pictures like the shit I'm posting and shit like that, little shit to where I know you're watching me, but it's like you can't say nothing. Why you can't say nothing if you're watching me,
Snoop, was that something that unfortunately had developed because of maybe some tensions between you and him, or was that manufactured by some other people that that may have put you and him at odds with each other unintentionally?
No. Well, at the end of the day, you're your own man. And I spoke to Snoop a couple of times, when he was at Source magazine. I asked him, what's up, champ? I see you talking shit about me in this magazine. Oh, that was before I met you. Like, okay, well, it's right. Cool, fuck it. And then after that, he just went on to the No Limit Top Dog shit, the No Limit album, the Snooper Fella, all this little weird shit. But, once I, really got the scoop on this shit, I was like, okay, I see what type of cat you are. So, motherfucker like you, I just brushed that shit off. I'm not even worried about it because, it is what it is. And, that's like somebody, somebody that's like that, and you don't fuck with them. So, I just stopped trying to reach out until a couple years ago. I didn't try to reach out to be friends and shit. I just tried to reach out to be a man, reach out and just say happy birthday since it was his birthday. And I didn't get a response, so.
Voila! It's your brother John Mack, a.k.a. Mindbender, with a 3R at the end.
here for a Metro 360 News presentation about one Calvin Cordozer Brodus, aka Snoop Doggy Dogg, BKA Snoop Dogg, who was introduced to us in 1991 by Dr. Dre doing the Deep cover soundtrack, the title track of the movie. Later on, acclaimed success would come from Dr. Dre's opus, The Chronic. Snoop Dogg was impressive all over the project, helping write, orchestrate, and feature on the entire album. Most of the country couldn't wait for his solo project to come out, and anticipation was high. Death Row Records, 5 million albums sold later, was the top priority in the rap industry. The number one label for hip hop and R&B type music of its era. Later on, we'd get a few other labels that would compete and give Death Row a run for their money, but at the time, this was the premier label to be on. Now, before I go any further with this story, let's recap a little time before Death Row. There was a small interim moment in between Death Row as it was getting orchestrated, organized, and ready to launch. Tupac Shakur was already an artist in the scene, featured from the premier group Digital Underground, who had hot singles on the radio, such as, Freaks of the Industry, The Humpty Dance, Do What You Like, so forth and so on. Later coming with a soundtrack single to the movie, Nothing But Trouble. This was our premier introduction to Tupac Shakur. Although we had seen him as a backup dancer in the Humpty Hump video, we weren't really too familiar with him and his rap voice yet. But on All Around the World, the same song, on the soundtrack for Nothing But Trouble, we were given a small preview of a guy who would explode on that very first verse. I clown around when I hang around with the underground. Girls that used to clown say I'm down when I come around. Everybody knows the beginning. And it goes on further to be one of the most explosive hip-hop tracks of all time. Along with an incredible producer at the time who actually used live keyboard instrumentation named Shock G. It was pure genius, right? Tupac's first album was good. It was formidable. It wasn't the best, but it was good. We were kind of in a deprived stage while we knew that Dr. Dre left NWA. Eazy-E came out with an album called 5150, Home for the Sick. And it wasn't that good. It wasn't anything comparable to Easy Does It or Straight Outta Compton. So we were slightly confused at the moment, especially with featuring artists like The Pharcyde and Tretch, who helped write that project. I can still hear the first single in my ears. Only if you want it. Yes, I really want it. Only if you want it. Yeah, the beat was hard, but it seemed like Tretch wrote the lyrics because Eazy-E came with some unconventional lyrics. We had been used to MC Ren and Ice Cube penning those verses for Eazy, so it was an unorthodox paradox at the time. But slowly but surely after that, Dr. Dre would emerge with Snoop Dogg on the deep cover. Yeah, but it's 187 on the undercover cop. Was the hottest shit in America. Period. Hands down. There is no question, no debate. And Snoop would go on to carry Death Row Records on his shoulders, with the Dog Pound album shortly coming after the Doggy Style album, we were thoroughly impressed with Death Row Records. They were on fire. The Chronic, 3-4 million sold. Doggy Style, 5 million sold. The Dog Pound, 3 million sold. I mean, Suge Knight, Dr. Dre, and Snoop were releasing nothing but platinum hits. Let's not forget the Above the Rim soundtrack, which was a soundtrack surrounded by the Tupac Shakur movie at the time, Above the Rim, in which Tupac did not get to complete that movie. Tupac was ambushed and shot and had to go to jail during the time while Above the Rim soundtrack was being filmed, the movie and soundtrack. And they had a guy named Bashim at the very end of the film, a Tupac lookalike, come and fill in the shoes for Pac in that movie. Most of us did not know that there was a fill-in at the end of the movie until years later, maybe 20 years later, 30 years later, with an interview on Vlad TV with Leon. And I think another gentleman, I'm not really sure, but they stated that Tupac didn't complete that movie and that there was a stunt double. But not necessarily a stunt double, an actual look-alike guy. Now, we fast forward into the future to the MGM Grand, and we all know that Tupac had several doubles on the shift working with him for whatever reason or the other. Usually stunt doubles and lookalikes are reserved for film, for movies, not for random events. Now, we know that during the Desert Storm War, Saddam Hussein traveled around with about 9 direct lookalikes. Most people could not tell who he was in the streets, especially when he was with one of his 9 lookalikes. That story is very strange in origin, but maybe Tupac learned something from that. And maybe he handed down that lesson to Suge Knight and Snoop Dogg as well. We know that a lot of stories that come out online are convoluted and lies, and so we can't necessarily take too much respect in what a lot of people who are disrespectful towards the old era of death row, any real attention. We have to kind of look at it from angles and see if it coagulates with other stories, because if it doesn't fit, they must have quit, right? Well, now let's move totally forward into the after Tupac's demise in Las Vegas. You see, right before Tupac passed away, it's alleged that Tupac and Snoop had issues with each other. Faison Love even mentioned something about them only doing one song together, but this is not true. They dissed Biggie together on a song called New York, New York 96, I think it was. They also did several songs that we heard later on the Gridlock soundtrack. So Snoop and Tupac were working. They had maybe about 5 or 6 songs completed, and on those Underground Machiavellis, you could hear Snoop all over those records. But also other members of the Dogg Pound, Daz, Corrupt, Badass. We know that Warren G was doing a lot of production for Tupac early on. Daz was doing production for him. So it wasn't that Snoop and Tupac didn't do a lot of records together. It was that Tupac was working with everybody. You can only do so many songs, you know? I think Snoop was like, let some of these other guys get to shine. You know, Snoop was the #1 rapper in the country. You know, a lot of people get their timeline misconstrued. Tupac didn't become America's favorite rapper until All Eyes on Me. You had many of fans of Tupac. A lot of people loved Tupac and were very serious fans of his music, but they weren't on Tupac heavier than Snoop at the time. Snoop was America's sweetheart. He was America's everything as far as hip hop goes. Everybody wanted to work with him, so forth and so on. And the New York diss track that everybody claims is a diss track, which Corrupt and everybody else said was homage. But, people that weren't paying attention properly thought they were dissing. And if you really listen to that song, there is no disses in that song. The only thing they're doing is repeating Grandmaster Melly Mel's chorus line, which Grandmaster Melly Mel ended up working with Tupac and Death Row Records, and alleged Tupac was to have helped him get signed to Death Row Records. Not mentioning that they were starting at Death Row East as well. A lot of the East Coast and West Coast beef stemmed from Ice Cube's group, the West Side Connection, had nothing to do with Tupac or Death Row. But it turned into that because of the Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. personal issues and the fact that Suge Knight blamed Sean Puffy Combs for the death of Big Jake Robles. Now, during this era, a young man named YGD Top Dog was brought to Death Row Records, alleged even having Michelle A. call him her godson. Snoop was on his way out of the door at Death Row, it seems, because The Dog Father didn't seem like the album he wanted to put out. And the reason why I say that is because Tupac had just released a double album with All Eyes on Me. If Snoop was supposed to be the biggest artist in the country, why did he come out with such a lackluster project? Well, I'll tell you why. When you're going through a murder trial and you feel like your life is about to be taken after you're the top rapper in the world, you're humbled and deflated. Snoop was so worried about going to prison at the time, he didn't really have the time to put in the work that he needed to put in to finish another album. And Dr. Dre was nowhere to be seen. Everybody knew that. What is a Snoop Dogg album without Dr. Dre when they've been together on every song since Snoop's beginning? We weren't really sure. But we knew that Two of America's Most Wanted, when released by Tupac, was one of the hottest singles in the country. Peep out this Judas ass shit right here.